still I grace. These monsters wear a human face. No gavel, no badge, no throne, no crown can stop Lord Chippy from burning them down. Justice ain't fast, justice ain't clean. It's a long, sharp road through the in-between. So raise your fists and light your flames. Chippy's coming and he don't play games.
Hey you guys, it's Mo, and I wanted to give you this update. We have been following this tragic South African story of a young girl sold by her mother and her boyfriend to a possible, I don't know, natural healer or faith healer in South Africa for nefarious reasons. I mean, it is just heartbreaking. So we're going to cover kind of update. They did get sentenced, so this will kind of cover that. Tears and heartbreak over a tragic story of South African girl sold by her mother. Yes, this young, precious baby girl, this beautiful little angel girl, was sold by her mother. A video clip of a laughing Joshlin Smith, who was 6 years old when she went missing more than a year ago in South Africa, left most people in the courtroom sobbing. Look, I would be sobbing too. You have no, like kids get me. It was shown during a hearing in Saldanha Bay near Cape Town ahead of the life sentence given to Joshlin mother, a addict who is believed to have sold her daughter for money. Again, addiction is such a scary thing. It will turn a mother into a monster. It will turn a father into a monster. It can turn anyone into a monster. If you are struggling with an addiction, there is hope. There is life after addiction, but you have to want it. And if you are, around someone that's dealing with addiction, no matter how much you try, no matter how much you want it for them, they have to want it for themselves. And that's a sucky thing to have to realize. Now, Racquel Smith, also known as Kelly Smith, was convicted of kidnapping and trafficking her daughter earlier this month. The 35-year-old mother of three was convicted and sentenced along with her boyfriend, Jacqueline Apollos, and their friend, Stefano Van Ryn, sorry. Even the court interpreter could not hold back her tears as she translated the victim impact statements into English. The court official read out those statements first in Afrikaans, a language spoken by those Middelpulse informal settlement of Saldanha Bay, where Joshlin had lived. So again, this is an area of extreme poverty. I get that there are, hard choices that people have to make, but selling your daughter because of drugs, because of anything else, is just absolutely unconscionable. I mean, poverty doesn't mean lack of morals, just like poverty doesn't mean dirty or disgusting, although a lot of shows will put that. I mean, I know we didn't have a lot of money growing up, but my mom would be darned if our house looked like crud. And we were, blessed, but still, it's that poverty, money or no money doesn't make your morals. In their own words, Joshlin's grandmother, the family friend who had wanted to adopt Joshlin, and her teacher spoke out about their pain and bewilderment about how a mother could have sold their child. One witness during the trial alleged that this was to a traditional healer known in South Africa as a Sangoma, who wanted Joshlin for her eyes and skin. This is a practice. Look, I am not very up, but I do know that a lot of people with albinism in Africa are hunted down because there is a belief that because of their different skin color or pigmentation, there are magical properties in their body. Look, I only know what I saw on a documentary, so I am not even going to try to break that one down much more than that. A local pastor testified that he had once heard Smith talking of selling her children for 20,000 Rand or $1,100 or 850 pounds each, but would have been willing to accept a lower figure of just 275 American dollars. Now, I don't know how that translates to Rand or pounds, but what the hell? A life for $275 that would go up your nose or in your veins in a week. Just, again, addiction creates demons. How do you sleep and live with yourself? A devastated Amanda Smith Daniels asked her daughter in a victim statement on Wednesday. She now looks after Smith's eldest child, and the youngest stays with her father. Now, Smith and her co-accused refused to take the stand during the 6-week trial that began in March and was held at a community center in Saldanha to allow a wider community attendance to the proceedings. But Joshlin's mother heard statements on Wednesday and saw the video clip as she sobbed uncontrollably. Joshlin's teacher, Edna Mart, described the little girl as a quiet pupil who was very tidy. She said that she struggled with daily questions from Joshlin's schoolmates about her whereabouts. Determined not to forget her, she said the class listened to her favorite gospel song, God Will Work It Out, at the start of every school day, and also it was also played in a Terry courtroom on Wednesday. To this day, no one knows what happened to this little girl. I mean, I hope maybe in, the best possible case scenario, there was a rich couple who really wanted a daughter. But let's be real, this is the real world. It's just like Shawshank Redemption. I'd just like to tell you that the queens did nothing to Andy, but this is Shawshank, not a fairy tale. And it breaks my heart to know the horrors that she might have endured or she's still enduring, and we don't know where she is. Every mother's heart that listens to this story, or caring heart, is going to ask, where is this baby? And it's bad when you hope that she is in heaven because you have no idea the hell that she's gone through thus far. It really is upsetting when you pray that this little girl is in heaven rather than dealing with, whatever nightmares we can come up with. And it's just terrifying. Now, her disappearance on the 19th of February, 2024, caused shockwaves across the country. Bianca van Asquin, a criminologist and national coordinator at the Missing Children South Africa, likened it to the case of Madeleine McCann, a British girl that went missing in Portugal in 2007. So this has been very big in South Africa. We are probably getting it a bit later, just because, there is so much news and things like that. But I am glad that I'm able to speak out about this. This is a heartbreaking case. Now, Miss Van Asquin told the BBC that while the trio's conviction in Joshlin case has given people a sense of relief, quote, the matter of fact is no one knows where Joshlin is, and I think it's a big question that South Africa is still asking. A picture of Joshlin's troubled life emerged during the trial and a better sense of her personality during this week's hearings ahead of sentencing. She was born in October 2017 to Smith and her former partner, Jose Amique, who broke down on Wednesday and had to be carried out of the courtroom. Their second child, she and her older brother, now 11, both suffered from neglect, according to a social worker who testified during the trial. Growing up, Kelly Smith had lived with her maternal grandmother and had struggled with substance abuse since she was 15, often becoming abusive toward, her and her children, so the grandmother and the children, when she was on drugs. Again, I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you are struggling with addiction, get help. And if you just don't do drugs. A report prepared by a social worker for sentencing for the hearing painted a stark picture of Smith's addiction at the time of Joshlin's birth. Her grandmother had kicked Smith out of the family home because of her, illicit pharmaceutical use, and she had threatened to stab her own eldest son at the time that Joshlin was getting ready to be born, so she was kicked out of the house, as you should do. The judge noted that it took Smith 5 months to register Joshlin's birth. Now, by law, this must be done within 30 days, and had lived intermittently at a shelter for DV victims. She later went into rehab. A friend of the family, Natasha Andrews, stepped in to care for Joshlin, and she and her husband had wanted to adopt this baby girl. We could have provided for her better than her mother, Miss Andrews said during the trial, but the plans fell apart in 2018 as the parents would not agree to that. Now, despite that, Joshlin often visited the Andrews family for weekends and school holidays and would go on trips with them. The clips shown in the court on Wednesday of Joshlin laughing was from one of those holidays and form part of Miss Andrews' victim statement. This is this child's true mother. Change my mind. This woman loved this baby and would never have sold her for any amount of money. So this woman is that baby's real mama. Change my mind. She shared this and other photos of Joshlin playing with her own daughter because, quote, so many people don't know what Joshlin even sounded like, she said. It was this and her description of her family's pain that sparked the greatest outpouring of emotion in the courtroom. Joshlin grew up in a corrugated iron structure located in the Middle Post informal settlement with her mother, her mother's partner, her brother, and her younger half-sister. The social worker report described the shack as offering little in the way of privacy due to a highly restrictive living place. And again, family and values and all of those things aren't dependent on how much money you have or what you have. And I get that these people have very, very little. I get that as an American, we are extremely beyond blessed. But rich or poor doesn't shape your soul. Smith did do odd jobs to support her family, including part-time domestic work for Kelly Zeggers, who lived with her family in a nearby neighborhood and paid her with groceries instead of cash. This was to make sure that she and her children would have a plate of food, Miss Zeggers said during her testimony, also because she was probably very aware that any money would go to not helping the family if she was struggling with addiction. It's much harder to, exchange groceries for rugs than, money for rugs, if you will. And I just dropped the D. Now, some witnesses would describe Smith as a good mother. Her sister told the court that Joshlin was the spitting image of her mom when she was young. The little that is known of what happened to Joshlin on the day she disappeared is thanks to Lorenta Lombard, who turned state witness. She had been at the shack smoking drugs with Apollos and Van Ryn at the time. She explained that Joshlin, who had started school a few weeks before her disappearance, and her brother had stayed home that day because they did not have clean uniforms. You are such a bad mom. You're not a mom, you're an incubator, but you are such, okay, yeah, laundry sucks, but I try to have clean clothes for my children to go to school with, and just ridiculous. Again, losing your day to being in a haze when you have the greatest blessing of children in front of you. People spend so much money, and there is so much heartbreak for people that can't have children, and monsters like this can just fall pregnant. It irritates the ever-living snot out of me. Now, the children had been left in the care of Apollos, as Smith has gone in and out during the course of the day, doing whatever she was doing and occasionally returning to get, a puff pass, if you will. Now, it's not clear exactly how or when Joshlin went missing, but the trial established that it was sometime during the afternoon, but the preoccupation of most of the adults meant that the disappearance was only reported to the police at, 7 p.m. No, 9 p.m. They have it in in universal 24-hour clock, so my math is bad, so it was 9. Now, the social worker appointed to compile the report on the trio ahead of the sentencing describes Smith as manipulative and someone who tells bald-faced lies. It is therefore not a stretch to conclude that Smith is the mastermind behind trafficking her own daughter, end quote. Miss Van Asquin said Joshlin's disappearance reflected a growing crisis in child trafficking. It's much more of a crisis than police stats actually show. It's due to the fact that many of the cases go unreported, she told the BBC. She said what was unusual in Jocelyn's case was that it captured the whole nation. I've never really seen a case blow up like this in South Africa before, and neither have we seen such a big search for a missing child. I think social media played a big role, and we had political parties get involved in the case. Now, according to South African news site IOL, 632 children were reported missing last year and 8,743 in the past 10 years. Now, earlier this month, spokesperson for the police, Athelda Mathay, said many children were eventually reunited with their families. Now, Miss Van Asquen said this showed that one could never give up hope and the search for Jocelyn would continue. This hope was reflected by most of the Andrews family during the sentencing hearing. A poem written by Miss Andrews' 14-year-old daughter Taylor was also read out in court, and it described her pain of not knowing what happened to Jocelyn and her hope that she was safe. "We just want to hug you again," Miss Andrews said in her statement. "You're our flower, our baby, our green-eyed child." Yes, Miss Andrews was this baby's mama, and I just want to go back to this beautiful baby girl with these beautiful big green eyes. Look at the smile. Look at the life in those eyes. I hope, I pray that this little girl comes back to her family. But doggone it, I've done true crime too long to, believe in fairy tales, but gosh, do I wish they were true. As always, justice is a journey, you guys, but Lord Chippy awaits, and I doubt that a South African prison is going to be a fun place for, this incubator. I have little doubt that Gen Pop justice will prevail, allegedly in Minecraft, considering how this case has blown up, but I did want to give you guys some little bit of closure. At least justice has been served. I'm not a, expertologist in South African prisons, but I'm guessing it's not going to be a fun time for Miss Incubator. And let me see if I can find a damn to give about that. And no, I can find no dams to give about that. So I hope you, well, if not enjoyed this, at least appreciated this, update on this case. Please share this with your friends. Let's get Jocelyn's face out there. Maybe she's somewhere in America. We don't know where these kids go. I mean, it's unlikely, but let's get her story out here. If you pray for this little girl. If you don't, if you believe in the universe, spaghetti monster, or whatever, keep her in your thoughts and, just take a moment today and hug your kiddos, hug your family members. Life is precious. Bye, you guys.